200 years beyond the era of heroes, the sky above New Mobotropolis flickered like a broken screen. Skyscrapers phased in and out of existence. Rivers flowed upward. Statues of legends who had not yet been born stood cracked in plazas that blinked between past and future architecture. Time itself had begun stuttering. At the center of it all floated Silver the Hedgehog, palms glowing cyan, telekinesis humming around him like a storm given purpose. "This isn't just another paradox," he muttered. "This is a fracture." Genesis portals ripped open across the skyline. Gold rings of distortion spun violently, each one projecting fragments of different eras. One portal showed Green Hill in pristine sunlight. Another displayed a war-torn wasteland Silver remembered too well. Another revealed a city of chrome and neon that never should have existed. Each portal pulsed with the same malignant rhythm. Silver clenched his fists. Something's rewriting history from outside the timeline. He reached into the flow of chaos energy, attempting to stabilize the nearest portal. His psychic grip latched onto its edge, but instead of resisting, the portal pulled back. Hard. Reality tore with a roar. The clouds above inverted into a spiraling vortex, and from its hollow center emerged a silhouette that devoured color. The Time Eater had returned. Silver's eyes widened. "You were erased." The creature did not answer. It inhaled, not air. Moments. Buildings collapsed into dust before they had ever been constructed. Streetlights regressed into raw metal. The ground beneath Silver aged forward and backward in chaotic pulses. He threw up a telekinetic barrier, bracing against the suction. "I won't let you take this future." But the Time Eater's gravity was not physical. It latched onto causality itself. Silver felt his own timeline slipping through his fingers like sand running uphill. A Genesis portal snapped open behind him. Too late. The suction swallowed him whole. Silence. Silver crashed onto a smooth, endless plain of white. No escape, no hiraisen. No sound except the faint ticking of something that was not there. He rose slowly, breathing hard. This was white space, but not the silent void Sonic once described during the events of sonicxshadowgenerations. This version was different. Fragments floated in the distance like museum exhibits ripped from time. A chunk of Crisis City burned without heat. A warped piece of space colony Ark rotated lazily. A twisted skyline of his own future flickered between ruin and prosperity. Each fragment was chained by glowing threads that stretched upward into nothing. The threads pulsed. Silver focused, extending his psychic senses. The threads were not random. They converged toward a single unseen nexus, something orchestrating the fractures deliberately. This white space isn't a byproduct, he realized. It's a workshop. The Time Eater drifted into view, larger here, more defined. Its clock face now had multiple hands, spinning in opposing directions. Around it hovered silhouettes, blurred shapes of enemies from across Sonic's history, unfinished, like ideas waiting to be sculpted. Silver steadied himself midair. "You're rebuilding history wrong," he said, voice firm despite the scale of the void. "And I'm done chasing disasters after they happen." He raised both hands. The floating fragments trembled. If the Time Eater could manipulate erased timelines, then Silver would do what he always did. He would fight for a better one. Telekinetic energy erupted outward in a brilliant cyan flare, latching onto the fractured pieces of reality. He began pulling them into alignment, forcing mismatched eras to harmonize. The Time Eater shrieked, its clock hands accelerating violently. White space cracked. Silver gritted his teeth. The pressure was immense, like holding together a collapsing multiverse with nothing but stubborn hope. 200 years of rebuilding, he growled. "I'm not letting you press rewind." The battle ignited across the blank infinity. Cyan light versus devouring chronal void. Fragments of past and future spun like shrapnel around them. And somewhere beyond the visible horizon, something else stirred. Because if the Time Eater had returned, Then this fracture might not be an accident. And Silver, guardian of a future that refuses to stay written, had just stepped into the heart of whoever was editing the universe. The shriek of the Time Eater fractured into echoes, then thinned into silence. It recoiled, its clock face spinning erratically, and dissolved into a tear in the white horizon. The threads binding the floating fragments slackened. Silver hovered alone in the humming stillness. Running already? He muttered, lowering his hands. You don't retreat unless you're planning something worse. Ahead, a gateway shimmered into existence. It was not one of the chaotic Genesis portals. This one stood upright and deliberate, formed from crystalline light. Inside its frame flickered a familiar Inferno. Burning skyscrapers, ash-choked skies, molten rivers carving through broken streets. Silver's expression hardened. Crisis City. The nightmare that once defined his existence. The ruined future that shaped him into a warrior before he was ever allowed to be a child. He stepped forward. The white floor vanished beneath him. Heat slammed into his senses. The sky roared with falling debris and streaks of flame. Towers cracked and collapsed in slow, agonizing spirals. Lava geysers burst upward like the planet itself was screaming. Crisis City lived again. Except this time, its colors were wrong. Everything was muted, drained. Reds looked gray. Flames burned without vibrance, as if the world itself had forgotten how to feel. Silver landed atop a crumbling highway. This isn't my past, he whispered. It's an echo. A shriek cut through the air. From the molten streets below crawled a swarm of Iblis creatures. Char bodies, glowing cores, twisted limbs made of living magma. Their movements were jerky, unfinished like corrupted data. Silver's eyes flared cyan. Then I'll finish it. He launched forward. Chunks of concrete ripped free at his command, spinning around him like a telekinetic halo. He hurled them downward, smashing through advancing monsters. Lava serpents erupted from fissures, snapping at him midair. He seized one, twisted it into a spiraling loop, and flung it into a collapsing tower. The skyline became his arsenal. Missiles from an ancient defense system whistled past him. He caught them, redirected them into a towering magma behemoth that roared from the plaza below. The explosion lit the sky in a brief burst of color before fading back into dullness. Not enough, Silver growled. He ascended higher, above the burning chaos, and closed his eyes. He remembered. The fear. The loneliness. The promise he made to change this future. His aura expanded, brighter than before. Not just power, resolve. He drove both hands downward. A wave of psychic force surged across the city like a cleansing tide. Iblis creatures disintegrated into embers. Lava flows hardened into stone. Crumbling buildings stabilized mid-collapse. And then, slowly, color returned. The sky regained its fierce orange glow. Flames burned vibrant gold. Steel shone. The city no longer looked like a forgotten memory. At the center of the plaza, where the largest fissure once raged, a crystal of white stasis cracked open. Inside stood a figure Silver knew instantly. Golden fur. Sharp eyes like polished amber. A calm strength that never wavered. Gold, he breathed. The crystal shattered. Gold, the Tenrex staggered forward before steadying herself. For a moment, she simply stared at him, as if confirming he was real. Then she smiled. You're late, she said softly. Silver rushed forward, catching her before she could fall. I thought I lost you. When I was trapped, Gold said, her voice quieter now. It wasn't like being frozen. It was suspended, like standing in a hallway between doors. I couldn't feel time moving. I couldn't tell if I was alive or already gone. Her eyes darkened slightly. I could hear echoes, your voice, the city burning, but I couldn't reach any of it. Silver's fists tightened. The Time Eater. Gold nodded. It's harvesting fractured timelines. Anyone tied to pivotal events gets caught in the gaps. She placed 2 fingers against her temple. A faint golden glow shimmered. I won't be caught again. A pulse brushed against Silver's mind. Gentle, familiar, like the first sunrise after a long storm. Telepathy. I can anchor myself to you, she explained. White space doesn't fully erase psychic connections. I'll stay linked. I can scout distortions, warn you, guide you through the fractures. Silver managed a small grin. Back to council strategy mode already? She crossed her arms with playful dignity. Someone has to keep the hero from charging headfirst into every disaster. The gateway behind them reopened, revealing the endless white beyond. Crisis City now stood stable. Whole, no longer a bleeding wound in time. Gold stepped back slightly, her form beginning to shimmer. I can't leave this restored fragment yet, she said, but I'll be with you. You won't navigate this alone. Her voice echoed again inside his thoughts. Clear, steady, home. Silver turned toward the portal. Then let's fix the rest. He leapt back into white space, cyan aura blazing once more. Above him, far beyond visible fragments, unseen clock hands began turning again. And this time, they did not sound alone. White space rippled again. Another gateway rose from the blank infinity, this one faceted like a prism. Its surface refracted colors that did not yet exist, scattering shards of sapphire and violet across the void. Gold's voice brushed against Silver's thoughts. Careful, this one feels engineered. Silver stepped closer. Inside the gateway shimmered a mountain range of glittering crystal spires beneath a cobalt sky. His breath caught. Crystal Mountain, a place from his future, from before the fractures worsened, from when hope had edges instead of cracks. He remembered standing here once, wind slicing through the peaks, chasing a mad genius across the ice-bright ridges of Onyx Island. Specifically, chasing Eggman Niga. Silver clenched his fists. You loved hiding in reflections, he muttered. Let's see what you left behind. He stepped through. The cold was immediate. Crystal Mountain zones stretched endlessly, jagged towers piercing the sky like frozen lightning bolts. Rails of translucent quartz spiraled between cliffs. Snow drifted in lazy arcs, catching light that felt dimmed, muted. Like Crisis City, the color had been drained. The world looked paused, and then the machines activated. From behind crystalline outcroppings rolled mechanized units with angular designs, sleeker and more advanced than anything Eggman once fielded. Drones with refractive armor. Spider walkers whose legs refracted laser beams through the terrain. Turrets embedded within crystal formations, hidden until they fired. Silver smirked slightly, still overcompensating with tech. A laser volley streaked toward him. He vanished upward, psychokinesis igniting in cyan brilliance. Midair, he twisted his hands and seized the beams themselves, bending their trajectory into a spiral that lanced back through 3 hovering drones. They exploded into shards and scrap. He landed on a crystalline rail and slid downward, telekinetically ripping a spider mech from the cliff face and smashing it into another. Ice sprayed outward in glittering storms. A massive bipedal unit stomped onto the ridge ahead, its core glowing crimson. It launched a barrage of refracted beams that split into dozens mid-flight. Gold's voice echoed in his mind. They're triangulating through the crystals. Break the anchors. Silver's eyes flashed. He thrust both palms outward. Entire crystal pillars tore free from the mountainside and hovered in orbit around him. With a sweeping motion, he hurled them into the surrounding peaks, shattering the reflective network. The battlefield dimmed. The beams faltered. Checkmate. He caught the giant mech mid-punch, lifted it effortlessly, and crushed it into a compact sphere before launching it beyond the mountain horizon. Silence fell. Then the mountain exhaled. Color surged back into the world like paint poured over glass. Blues deepened. Snow sparkled. The sky became radiant and alive. The fractured haze dissolved, revealing the true majesty of Crystal Mountain as it once was. At the summit, embedded in a towering geode, a capsule cracked open. Silver approached cautiously. Inside stood a man adjusting his glasses as if he had merely been inconvenienced. Sharp features, white lab coat, analytical eyes that always seemed 2 steps ahead. Von Schlemmer, Silver whispered. The scientist blinked, then gave a thin smile. Ah, subject Silver. You're taller. Silver laughed despite himself. It's been 200 years. Yes, temporal displacement. Very dramatic. Von Schlemmer brushed crystalline dust from his coat. I suspected as much. When I was seized, I was mid-calculation. Then nothing. A liminal suspension. Fascinating. Unpleasant, but fascinating. Gold's presence flickered warmly in Silver's mind. He was instrumental in stabilizing the eastern sectors. Von Schlemmer's gaze sharpened. The crisis. The Time Eater is not merely consuming eras. It is reorganizing probability. Your future contains high-variance events. High variance attracts manipulation. Silver crossed his arms. In simple terms, you and your associates are pivot points. The scientist circled him thoughtfully. I took an interest in your abilities long before the council did. Raw psychokinesis is impressive. Undisciplined potential is wasteful. Silver raised a brow. I learned discipline. Yes, but you are still using your power reactively. Von Schlemmer reached into a containment case that had rematerialized beside him as color returned. Inside rested upgraded inhibitor shackles, sleeker than Silver's current pair. Lines of luminous circuitry ran along their surface. I designed these years ago, he said, in case you ever required expansion. Silver hesitated. Expansion? Your telekinesis manipulates existing matter. These modifications will allow you to structure it. He secured the upgraded shackles around Silver's wrists. They hummed softly, synchronizing with his aura. Focus on particulate density, Von Schlemmer instructed. Silver extended his hand. Snowflakes trembled midair. Instead of merely gathering them, he compressed them, reshaped them. A crystalline spear formed in his palm, sharp and precise. He shifted his grip, and the spear dissolved into floating shards before reforming into a broad shield. His eyes widened. I can create constructs. Temporary, yes. Energy-intensive, but viable, Von Schlemmer said. Blades, barriers, platforms, tools, weaponized geometry sculpted by will. Silver flexed his fingers. A telekinetic bow shimmered into existence, strung with pure psychic energy. Gold's voice carried quiet awe. Silver, your aura just spiked. Von Schlemmer adjusted his glasses again. Consider it controlled evolution. If the Time Eater is editing reality, you must become an author. Silver looked toward the white space gateway, reforming at the mountain's edge. 2 restored zones. 2 allies freed. He clenched his newly empowered fists, cyan light weaving in his solid constructs around them like gauntlets forged from thought itself. Then let's write the future correctly. Behind him, Crystal Mountain gleamed proudly, anchored once more in the time stream. Ahead, white space waited, and somewhere beyond its horizon, the editor of existence turned another unseen page. White space shifted again, its endless floor rippling like disturbed water. A 3rd gateway erupted upward, this one unstable. Flames flickered within its frame, yet the fire burned in fractured polygons, jagged and unnatural. Sparks flew outward and froze midair before dissolving. Gold's voice whispered through Silver's thoughts. This one feels volatile. Silver stepped forward anyway. Inside roared a memory he never enjoyed revisiting. Chaotic Inferno. A war zone of twisting steel platforms suspended over oceans of magma. Conveyor belts ran vertically. Gravity rails bent at impossible angles. Explosive debris rained from above while artillery turrets rotated like angry constellations. And somewhere within it once stood Eggman Niga, wielding that infernal device. Silver remembered it vividly. A camera powered by distorted chaos energy. One click, and a person became a card. One flash, and even a Master Emerald was flattened into collectible tragedy. He stepped through. Heat punched him in the chest. The sky churned red and black, lightning splitting volcanic clouds. Platforms rotated in chaotic patterns above molten seas. The entire zone looked like a machine suffering a nervous breakdown. And like before, the color was drained. The fire burned gray. The lava glowed dull. Then the artillery locked onto him. Turrets spat plasma bolts. Drone carriers dropped spiked mines along narrow walkways. Mechanical serpents coiled around support beams, their optics flashing crimson. Silver leapt forward. He formed a telekinetic platform midair, launching himself across a collapsing bridge. A missile streaked past him. Instead of dodging, he reached out. The missile froze mid-flight. He grinned. "Thanks for the ride." With a twist of his wrist, he rotated the projectile beneath his feet and rocketed forward, surfing the missile through a spiraling tunnel of flame. Turrets fired wildly as he wove through them, deflecting blasts with a crystalline shield formed from surrounding debris. Gold's mental voice guided him. 2 cannons above, 1 below. He flung a cluster of molten scrap upward, forming it into a jagged disc that sliced through the upper cannons before ricocheting downward into the third. The missile beneath him detonated just as he vaulted free, landing atop a vertical rail that carried him upward through a vortex of fire. At the summit loomed the core platform, the place where Nigo once stood laughing, snapping that cursed camera is shut as history bent to his ego. Now a colossal mechanized sentinel guarded it, shaped like a twisted lens. Its iris glowed and projected beams that attempted to flatten the environment into geometric panels. Silver's eyes burned cyan. Not again. The sentinel fired. The beam grazed his shoulder. For a split second, his arm flickered two-dimensional, edges sharp as paper. He roared and countered, summoning twin psychic blades forged from molten metal and crystallized light. He hurled one blade into the machine's lens. The other he used to carve through its stabilizing limbs as he spiraled around it midair. "Curved tut. Limbo is dreadfully dull," he rumbled. Silver lowered himself gently to the platform. "Mogul." Mammoth Mogul regarded him with an unreadable expression. "You've grown," Mogul observed. "Not in stature, in gravity." Silver crossed his arms. "You were trapped too? For an immortal, suspension between existence and oblivion is tedious." Mogul flexed one massive hand. "I have endured centuries. Empires rising, collapsing. Chaos storms and reality shifts. This, however, is different." Gold's presence flickered cautiously in Silver's mind. "Be careful." Mogul's eyes narrowed slightly, as if he sensed the telepathic exchange. "The Time Eater is not acting alone," Mogul said calmly. "Such creatures are instruments. Blunt ones. Something else directs this symphony of fractures." Silver's jaw tightened. "Then I'll deal with them too." Mogul chuckled low and heavy. "Your determination is admirable. Dangerous, but admirable." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You're stitching together isolated fragments. But the deeper you travel into white space, the closer you approach the origin point. That nexus will not merely test your strength. It will test your convictions." Silver's aura flared instinctively. "If effaced vers. Have you?" Mogul's gaze sharpened. "When the architect of this calamity reveals their purpose, you may be asked to choose between preserving your future or rewriting it entirely." The words lingered like embers in the air. Silver glanced at the newly restored horizon of chaotic Inferno. Once chaos, now stable. He thought of Gold, of von Schlemmer, of every ruined tomorrow he had fought to protect. "I didn't come this far to hesitate." Mogul's expression shifted into something almost resembling approval. "Then go, guardian of tomorrow. I will remain anchored here. Even immortals can serve as pillars." The white space gateway reopened at the edge of the platform, swirling brighter than before. Silver turned toward it, his upgraded shackles humming, constructs flickering faintly around his hands. Gold's voice steadied him. "We're with you." He nodded. "Let's finish this." And with that, Silver leapt once more into the endless white, closer than ever to the unseen force editing reality itself. White space dimmed. Not flickered, dimmed. A fourth gateway rose from the void, taller than the rest, its frame etched with symbols that shifted when not directly observed. Violet mist curled around its base, and faint chimes echoed from somewhere distant, like wind moving through forgotten corridors. Gold's voice brushed his thoughts. This one feels haunted. Silver exhaled slowly. Good. I'm tired of predictable. He stepped through. The air turned cold and heavy. He stood within mystic haunt. A spectral forest sprawled beneath a storm-soaked sky. Twisted trees arched inward like rib bones. Lanterns floated midair, their flames burning blue. Ruined temples half sunken into marshland whispered with distant chants that had no source. The world had the same muted palette as the other fractured zones. Pale purples, washed-out greens, shadows thicker than they should be. A metallic hum cut through the silence. Silver didn't need to turn around. Sleek chrome reflected the ghostly lantern light. Crimson optics flared with precise calculation. Aerodynamic plating curved tighter and sharper than the original design. Metal sonic, Silver murmured. The machine tilted its head slightly. Designation 3.0. A creation of Eggman Niga, built not merely to rival Sonic, but to surpass future threats. Metal Sonic 3.0 crouched, then vanished. A sonic boom detonated the swamp beneath Silver's feet. Silver launched upward instinctively, but a metallic blur streaked past him, clipping his side with a shockwave that sent him crashing through a ruined archway. He skidded across wet stone. Fast. Too fast. Metal Sonic 3.0 reappeared atop a crumbling temple spire and pointed down the central pathway of Mystic Haunt. A straight corridor of floating platforms and broken bridges stretched ahead. Its optics flashed. Challenge accepted. The race began. Silver bolted forward, using telekinesis to propel himself in bursts. Metal Sonic 3.0 tore across surfaces, ricocheting between walls, running upside down along tree trunks. They weaved through collapsing platforms. Silver formed psychic footholds midair when bridges gave way. Metal 3.0 sliced through spectral obstacles with bladed limbs that extended and retracted in seamless arcs. Silver's mind raced faster than his body. He can outpace me in raw speed. So change the rules. As Metal Sonic 3.0 surged ahead, Silver thrust both hands outward. The air thickened. Psychokinetic pressure blanketed the path like invisible gravity syrup. Leaves froze mid-fall. Lantern flames flickered slower. Metal Sonic 3.0 hit the field and staggered mid-stride. Servos whining as resistance clawed at its joints. Silver shot forward, evening the gap. The race corridor collapsed into a circular clearing surrounded by ancient stone pillars etched with glowing sigils. Metal Sonic 3.0 halted. Its chest plating shifted open. Lightning erupted. A bolt speared towards Silver with feral intensity. He reacted on instinct. Psychic shield. The lightning smashed into a translucent cyan barrier, fracturing across its surface like branching veins of light. The impact forced Silver back several feet, boots carving trenches into the marsh. More bolts followed in rapid succession. The clearing flashed white and blue. Silver gritted his teeth, reinforcing the shield, then pivoted it forward like a battering ram. The next lightning strike deflected upward, splitting a storm cloud in half. Adapt, Silver whispered. He expanded the gravity field around Metal Sonic 3.0, not to stop it entirely, but to create uneven drag. One limb heavier than the other. One joint slowed at the wrong moment. The machine compensated instantly, recalibrating stride and attack patterns. It lunged, claws slashing in blinding arcs. Silver formed twin psychic constructs, meeting metal with shimmering energy. Sparks sprayed across the haunted clearing. Metal Sonic 3.0's optics flared brighter. internal temperature rising. Silver noticed the faint distortion rippling along its plating. "You're pushing yourself," he muttered. Metal Sonic 3.0 unleashed a concentrated lightning barrage, overloading its own conduits to break free of the psychic field. Electricity cascaded wildly, scorching the stone pillars and igniting spectral vines. Silver dropped low, letting the barrage pass overhead, then slammed both palms against the ground. Psycho shock. Metal Sonic 3.0 attempted to stabilize mid-flight. Silver did not give it the chance. He formed a single, razor-thin psychic knife in his right hand. Not massive, not flashy, precise. He hurled it. The blade pierced straight through the central core housing, slicing cleanly before dissolving into shimmering particles. Metal Sonic 3.0 froze midair. Its optics flickered. Then it exploded in a controlled implosion, collapsing inward before scattering as harmless scrap that evaporated into motes of light. Silence returned to Mystic Haunt. The storm clouds parted. Color rushed back into the forest. Greens deepened. Violet mist shimmered vibrantly. Lantern flames burned gold instead of blue. At the center of the clearing, resting upon a stone altar, something gleamed. Silver approached slowly. A radiant gem, glowing warm and fierce like captured sunlight. He lifted it carefully. Power surged through him, not chaotic, but harmonizing with his psychic aura. His constructs flickered brighter, steadier. Gold's voice filled his mind with quiet awe. Surprised, a chaos emerald. Silver, that changes everything. Surprised. Silver closed his fingers around the gem, feeling its pulse synchronize with his heartbeat. Then let's make it count. The special gateway reappeared behind him, brighter than any before. For zones restored, for allies reclaimed. One emerald in hand. White space awaited again. And somewhere deeper within it, something had just realized Silver was no longer merely repairing history. He was arming himself to confront its author. White space trembled again. But this time the gateway that emerged looked different. It was massive, forged from cracked stone and molten light, its edges dripping with glowing embers that evaporated before touching the white floor. Gold's voice echoed in Silver's mind. "This feels powerful." Von Schlemmer's tone followed, analytical and calm. A convergence node, likely a defensive construct guarding deeper access to the temporal nexus. Silver rolled his shoulders, the yellow chaos emerald glowing softly in his hand. "Then let's see what's waiting." He stepped through. Heat slammed into him like a tidal wave. Ash rained from a blood-red sky. Silver hovered above the ruined skyline of Crisis City, its towers burning once more, flames roaring violently between shattered structures. But this time something new stirred beneath the magma rivers. The ground bulged. The lava sea exploded upward. From a molten inferno rose a colossal beast of living fire, a monstrous body composed of blazing magma and swirling flame, crowned with jagged horns and eyes like miniature suns. The Iblis. Silver stared at it, confusion knitting his brow. "I don't remember you." Yet something deep in his chest tightened, a strange echo of anger, a memory that wasn't quite his. Gold's voice whispered carefully. "Your timeline was rewritten long ago, but some scars stay in the soul." Iblis roared, unleashing a hurricane of fire. Silver darted sideways as torrents of flame tore across the battlefield, vaporizing skyscrapers and turning highways into molten rivers. Guest introductions are over. Iblis slammed a titanic arm into the ground. The impact launched massive chunks of burning rock into the sky. Meteors. They rained down towards Silver like fiery artillery. He raised both hands. The meteors froze mid-descent. Silver grinned slightly. "Nice try." With a twist of his wrists, he flung them back, each blazing chunk of lava smashing against Iblis's molten body. The impacts burst into violent explosions that splashed magma across the ruined city. But the creature only roared louder. Iblis inhaled deeply. The sky darkened. The lava ocean behind it churned violently before erupting upward in a storm of molten projectiles. Dozens, hundreds, a blazing meteor swarm blotting out the sky. Gold's voice spiked with alarm. Silver. Von Schlemmer's voice followed immediately. Impact probability catastrophic. Silver looked upward, then down at the glowing emerald in his hand. A small smile crossed his face. Let's test something. He held the emerald forward. Chaos control. The world stopped. Flames froze mid-flicker. Lava droplets hung, suspended like glowing marbles. Meteors halted inches from their destructive descent. The battlefield became a silent sculpture of destruction. Silver floated calmly among the suspended meteors, his psychokinesis wrapping around each blazing mass one by one. He gathered them. Dozens. Then hundreds. The burning stones orbited him like a fiery constellation. Silver inhaled slowly. Time surged forward again. Comet smash. With a sweeping motion, he hurled the entire meteor storm downward in one unified barrage. The sky itself seemed to fall. Meteors slammed into Iblis with catastrophic force. Explosions chained together across its colossal body, shattering its molten structure and blasting waves of fire across the ruined city. The creature roared once more, then fractured. Its flaming form collapsed into a spiraling vortex of embers that scattered across the skyline before fading completely. Silence returned to Crisis City. The flames dimmed. Color stabilized, and Silver slowly descended to the cracked pavement below. He looked at his hands, the emerald glowing steadily. That thing felt like part of my past. Gold's voice answered gently. It was just from a future that no longer exists. White light suddenly engulfed the battlefield. The boss arena dissolved around him as white space reclaimed its territory. Silver landed back on the endless blank plain. Above him, another gateway began forming. Larger. Deeper. And somewhere far beyond it, unseen gears of time turned with growing urgency. Because Silver had just defeated the first guardian of the fractured timeline, and the path to the true architect of the catastrophe was opening.